Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I want to reintroduce you to a fascinating young lady. Beth Sturdevant is her name, and she is a healer. In addition to being an incredible musical performer and a bunch of other things that we'll probably talk about. But she has a program in her yurt, and she posted about this just a little while ago. And she said something that really struck me. And it was about becoming a different person, and questioning whether we're all on a path to enlightenment and awakening that is separate from who we are today and bestowed upon those privileged enough to achieve it. And she's not one of those people, and she's proud of that fact. And she talked about how healing and spirituality are not exclusive. It's not a club. It's not a competition. It's real. It's normal, and it's accessible to everyone. And what you said, Beth, just a couple of minutes ago is that you're taking out you're taking the mystery out of the mystical. Is that right?
Yeah, demystifying the mystical. Yeah.
Demystifying the mystical. Tell me a little bit about how in your yurt you're demystifying the mystical.
Well, just to clarify, it's not my yurt yet. Put that at the end of there yet. I rent this fabulous yurt from a woman in the area, and I offer yurt circles, so healing circles where I gather with people, and we have real conversations about our experiences, our human experiences in this life. But then I will share with them some of my understandings, my teachings, my knowledge about their experiences. And then at the end, I lead everyone through a guided shamanic healing journey, kind of like a meditation of sorts, where we go to places in people's consciousness and subconscious, get to the root of whatever's causing them concern at the time, and then most importantly, heal it so that it is resolved at that capacity.
What is a shamanic healing session?
Shamanic healing. So shamanism is the oldest form of, we'll say, therapy and religion in human history. We're only slowly starting to acknowledge it in our modern times again. So shamanism is essentially people who are able to work with, communicate with the natural world. So whether that's spirits, spirit animals, plant medicines, and things like that. They're found, originally it originated, or at least the first human historical recordings of shamanism originate in Siberia centuries and centuries ago. But there are shamans, a variety of different shamans throughout the world. So a shamanic session is when I'm able to help use kind of natural world, but also help other people access the natural world within them. So meaning your consciousness. So we go in, think of Gandalf in Lord of the Rings.
Right.
He would be considered a shaman, Yoda, those kind of wise people who are able to guide us through those unknown worlds in our consciousness, to go delving deep into the subconscious world, the scary parts of our psyche, and then bringing that information to light, resolving it, and then obtaining the boon, obtaining the wisdom beyond.
So what do? You're sitting in this tent, this yurt, and are you burning incense? Or are you putting them into some sort of trance? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, some shamans will do plant medicine ceremonies where they're using some kind of hallucinogen. But for my practice, I do not work with plant medicines in that respect. Yeah, sometimes I'll burn sage, Palo Santo, which is a wood that comes from the Amazonian jungle. I don't use a lot of tools, but I do. Before we go on our shamanic journey, I help people relax, come into their bodies, kind of clear any biases or fears they may have in their head, kind of really get them into a trance-like state naturally, so that they are able to allow their imagination to flow more freely, stop doubting as much, and just allow whatever comes to their mind and in their bodies. So whatever emotions, whatever feelings, whatever thoughts come up, just allow them to be without overthinking and
So
getting
it's
in the
not
way
like
of.
talk therapy where you talk things out. It's sort of silent. You just sort of meditate.
We do talk things out, because so let's say you and I were in a session together, we would talk and I would ask you what's going on in your life, or maybe something would come up naturally. You're feeling something before the session. We'd have a conversation. I'd get a little bit of information that helps me kind of track where we're going to go, where I'm going to lead you, so that we can get to that layer of the onion, so to speak, and really access the actual truth. Because when we're talking from our consciousness, we're only talking from 5% of our understanding, right? So what you may think is the issue, that's only the tip of the iceberg. The real issue is a shaman's job. That's the Gandalf's job, to get you to actually why you feel what you feel, why you're experiencing what you experience. In a group atmosphere, it's harder to do that because there's many people, but we'll kind of go on a general theme that, perhaps like cycles in our lives where we're experiencing things that we don't like, or we just go on a general theme, and that guided meditation, that shamanic journey, is based on that.
And you do this typically one-on-one or in a group session?
I see clients one-on-one. I have a program where I work with people over a couple months period, so that we're really able to get you from kind of your pain point, what's causing you a lot of concern, to where you want to be. And generally that takes, it's like exercising. If I want to gain a certain amount of weight or lose a certain amount of weight, one session with a personal trainer is going to do diddly squat, right? So in the group atmosphere, I have people who come once. I do these monthly in the Yurt. Some people come to every single one. Those are more, those are kind of check-ins, so to speak.
And why does the Yurt help?
It's just a wonderful space. It's a nice sacred space. It's circular, so it really brings that circular community feeling of us coming together. Yurts traditionally stem from the Mongolian tribes, but you can find, again, yurts around the world. But it really, that circular feeling of coming together, where no one person or one thing is superior to any other, right?
Absolutely fascinating. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with Beth in just 2 minutes, talking a little bit more about shamanism and about her process of becoming. And I want to understand what becoming is all about. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm chatting tonight with Beth Sturdevant, who is a quantum shamanic Reiki master teacher. She's also an incredible performer, and that's a whole nother story that we've done before, where you play on stage with different performers, and you were at one point in time playing regularly in New York City. What's your instrument?
I play the cello.
And how'd you get into the cello?
Through my parents, actually. Both my parents are professional, or I guess you never stop being a professional musician. But that's what they did. And that's the environment I grew up, that artistic environment. And so when I was 9 years old, it was suggested that I pick up an instrument. At the time, I actually didn't want to play anything. I had no interest in music. But I chose the cello. I'm going to say the cello chose me. So I started when I was 9 years old. Yeah.
And you spent years in New York performing?
Yep. I went to university for music performance, cello performance. I traveled around the world, doing a variety of different things. And then I ended up in New York City, where I was making a career as a freelance cellist. Yeah.
And you've been doing some performances on stage of late with important performers.
Yeah, I recently played with the Eagles. I don't do as much as I used to. I mean, living in Ottawa, there's not as much of the type of music that I like to play. But I had the very great fortune of being able to perform with the Eagles recently. So
that would have been fun.
Yeah, it's always great.
And we did a show on that. If anyone's interested, you can catch one of my prior shows with Beth talking about her performance with the Eagles on stage. And then a decade or so ago, you got into shamanism. How did that happen?
Through necessity, actually. And I love talking about this because it's really important to demystify healing and to normalize it. Because, you know, growing up myself in a musical world, I grew up, I was raised Christian, but I didn't believe in any type of God. I did it just because, you know, that's what you do. And I never actually had any connection with spirituality, spirits. I never heard anything. I wasn't clairvoyant. I never had any of those experiences that I can speak of. And in fact, I would probably have labeled myself as agnostic. So again, not really believing in anything in particular, but not believing in not anything. But it came to a point in my life where I really had to delve deep into healing, into, you know, my ex-fiance, my children's father at the time, 14, 15 years ago, left me. And at that period when I kind of had to redefine myself and find myself in a new country and all of this stuff that came with all of that trauma and questioning, I needed help. So I started exploring therapies, various different therapies. I was looking desperately for some type of healing that I didn't understand or something that could help me. I even went on medication for anxiety and depressions, like all the things that you're supposed to do. And I'm not dismissing any of it because I needed them at the time and they were very helpful at the time, but they never got to the crux of the problem. Even while I'm doing these meditation groups and I'm taking the medication, I'm doing therapy, I was still doing things to myself that weren't healthy, like abusing drugs and alcohol, I was very reactive, insecure, like all these things that were still there. There was like a kind of like the best way I can describe it is like a silent rumbling inside of me. That
a silent rumbling.
Yeah, kind of like a volcano that you know it's there. It can erupt at any time. So you're cautious of it, but you just never know when it's going to erupt. And that's how I felt. And sometimes that volcano would erupt and I would react. I'd be reactive or whatever ways that my volcano or my dragon would come out. And it wasn't until I lost, I'd say, some people would call it a soulmate, whatever labels you want to put on it, somebody that was the most I have ever loved somebody in my life. When I lost that person, partially due to that volcanic eruption, that uneasy part of myself, where I realized that I had to go deeper than what the medications, the diagnosis, and the therapies were doing for me. And so at that time, as fate would have it, somebody came into my path, a local Algonquin shaman who trains people professionally in kind of like a hybrid shamanism course. And so I did that. I started for myself first to heal myself. And I was extremely apprehensive. I mean, again, I didn't believe in anything, right? So the fact that here I am working with an Algonquin shaman, I have no idea what shamanism is. I didn't know about energy healing. I knew nothing of that, but all I knew is that I needed help and I needed something different. So I tried it, and it was because it worked consistently over time, over and over. Every time I'd go into a session with this shaman, every time I'd do an exchange with my classmates, I'd always actually say to myself, oh, this isn't going to work. You know, how can this actually help me? And every single time it just blew my mind. And so slowly over the period of 2 years of this first program I took, I was hooked. And then I started to realize that this was bigger than me, and that I loved also doing it. And I was really great at holding space for others and helping others. So then I started to dive deeper into training, and spent over 7 years of professional training and practice in quantum shamanism.
And quantum shamanism is getting into a trance or getting into meditation and trying to figure out who you are?
Shamanism is, yeah, you're going into trance, you're going into the subconscious mind. Again, think of Lord of the Rings, where they go kind of into the cave to find like the Balrog.
So, and you do this, as you said, either one-on-one or in groups, but one-on-one is better. Do you do it all person to person, or can you do it virtually, or how do you do that?
Yeah, virtually, person to person, it doesn't matter. The quantum aspect of the healing is, that's what makes it really exciting for me, because then we get into time and consciousness and belief systems, and how you look at something really determines and creates, it essentially brings your beliefs into form. And the fact that, you know, distance really it doesn't exist, so to speak, right? It's an illusion. The fact that your energy and my energy is not connected because you're wherever you are, 100 miles away, and I'm here, doesn't mean that we're not connected energetically, or at least consciously. So I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole of all of this, but all that to say is that virtually, it really doesn't matter if we're in person or not.
You talked about the evolution of our soul. What do you mean by the evolution of our soul?
The evolution of our soul is, you are here to gain insight, correct things, evolve essentially yourself, so that we don't continue to carry on in other lifetimes the same lessons, the same mistakes, the same traumas. So each lifetime that we live, it's an opportunity to evolve beyond what was.
And why would someone come to you rather than going to a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something like that?
It's a great question. And so often I recommend that people do both. I have lots of clients that see psychotherapists or psychologists and a shaman as well. Because, you know, some people really need talking and dissecting of ideas and gaining insight and wisdom from other people. Whereas what I do is, not only do we do that, but we heal. There's always a healing component, and we replace whatever it is that's been bothering you with a healed outcome, so to speak. So it's not the absence of the issue that's actually the healing. It's the replacing of the issue with whatever it is you want. Right? That's the true healing of someone's issue. It's not like I could, you know, we could work on something, but if you don't replace that something with something that you want, something healthy, who's to say something unhealthy isn't going to now come in? If we take like substance abuse, right? When we resolve the reasons why we abuse whatever drug we're using or whatever addictions we have, if we don't find something to replace that, to bring us greater meaning or understanding, then often those reasons will then be diverted onto something else. So we're not actually healing, we're just basically diverting.
So if you still have the reasons, you may stop taking the substance, but you might do something else that's bad.
Potentially, yeah. In most cases, yes.
And so how do you actually heal that then?
Well, we'll do, because I work with, call it energy medicine. So we'll use different types of energy, our own energy. And again, the shamanism, it's a huge suspension of disbelief, right?
A huge
Belief-
suspension of
belief-
disbelief.
Yes, believe me, this is I'm coming from agnostic to, now I'm talking that I'm working with spirits and creator and all these things that before, like, I would have been like, what the, So I get the doubt, I get the apprehension. I'm not saying you have to believe it. And in fact, often, in the world that I live in right now, so to speak, in this woo-woo world, I actually don't hang out with typical woo-woo people. They weird me out too, because when people start talking too much outside the realm of our human experience, let's talk about, it's sorcery and karma, and I'm being psychic attacked, and do you know anything about the 9 realms, and yada yada yada. Does it matter? That's, if you believe that that's true, then I'm happy you believe that that's true, as long as it's making you a good person. Do I have to believe that that's true? No, not necessarily. So the point being is, what I do is bringing it back to that human experience. How can we make it tangible for this experience? Whether I work with wolf medicine or I talk to angels or whatever, doesn't matter, as long as the outcome is you are feeling better within yourself. You're achieving the results that you want. You are a better person, and ergo, you're living a better life. You're becoming who you want to be, so to speak.
I want to read something that you wrote, which really spoke to me. You said, the greatest aspect of what I do, watching other real life humans evolve and grow through their own understandings, their own healings, their own strengths, and acknowledging and becoming their own healers per se, which is much more powerful than telling them what to do and how to do it. Sharing of wisdom is how we grow as humans, how we evolve our souls, by helping others learn to access, trust, and value themselves, and move beyond what has perhaps made them forget who they are and stop trusting to begin with. That's why this process of healing is actually a process of remembering that you are perfect, you are powerful, and that you are capable of achieving everything you want beyond what you may believe right now to be true. Our beliefs can be healing or destructive depending on who is sharing them, and how the most despicable dictators in history believed they were enlightened about something, so much so that they managed to control and convince others to believe the same. Educate, my friends, don't dictate. It is through our connection and compassionate wisdom where we can be of greatest service to this world and to each other. It almost sounds like you're talking, not doing anything with wolf medicine or something. You're just talking to people.
Exactly. I'm talking to people, but if you were to come to me and ask me, how do you play the cello? And I could tell you all the technical aspects of how the cello works, and how, pressure on my fingers and the pressure in the bow, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does that change your experience of it? Does it really even matter? No. You enjoy the cello and the sound of music because it impacts you on levels that we don't often understand why. And in fact, you could even say that listening to music is in itself a shamanic journey, because it's taking us places in our psyche, in our consciousness, our non-consciousness, and in our emotions, kind of taking us on a journey, so to speak. So when I talk to people, it's really from this human aspect of my greatest purpose in what I do is helping you remember that beyond all of your experiences so far in this lifetime, forget about the other lifetimes, that's a whole other ball of wax. Beyond all of that, you are perfect. So if we can start to unpack and kind of resolve all of those things that have shaped us in perhaps not the greatest ways, then we get back to the root and the truth of you, and that you really can be your greatest advocate. You can be the greatest healer. Like, you probably have, well, I know you have spiritual gifts. Like, we all have those capacities. It's just, how have we been shaped and taken away from that? So it really is it's a process of remembering who you are. And then from that knowledge, from that wisdom that you gain through these journeys, like this image of me looking out over the mountain range, embarking on this journey of remembering and then becoming that, not for anybody else. And that's where
do we forget? Is your point that we forget who we are? Is that what it is?
Absolutely. Yes, because we're shaped by the people, the situations around us. Other people's belief systems shape us. And then really powerful people who have the ability and the desire to control others can then use that to manipulate and shape others. I mean, think again, like, if we go back to the dictators of the world, they all believed they were enlightened with some type of higher power or gifts or knowledge, beliefs. And they just were extremely, extremely convinced of what they believed, so much so that then they can, manipulate and empower, or not empower, sorry, disempower other people to believe the same thing. So it's my job to not dictate and tell you what to believe, but to help you find out what that is for you, so that you can live the best life that you want to live, not based on what I think that should be or what other people think that should be.
We're going to take a break and come back in just 2 minutes with Beth Sturdevant, talking about becoming who we really want to be and remembering who we were and doing that through a shamanic experience. Interesting conversation. A little bit woo-woo, but interesting conversation. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Beth Sturdevant. She is a fascinating individual and has a really interesting and very wide experience. And I think there's an interesting personal story that you've got, that you went through some challenges after a very successful career as a cellist in New York. And it sounds like it was somewhat to do with substance abuse, but then also something to do with a broken relationship. And you found shamanism, and shamanism is what brought you back to who you are and who you want to be. And now you're a shaman. What do you call it? A shaman teacher, or what do you, a shaman practitioner? What's the description?
Shamanic practitioner, healer, coach. Yeah.
Who comes to you and why?
Good question. Everyone. I mean, because I work with the human condition and humans, I get a lot of wide variety of clients. Often a lot of women come to me when they're wanting to feel more stronger within themselves, more empowered. But also a lot of men who often find it hard to allow themselves to be vulnerable. I don't like to use that word because it's become kind of a kitschy word, but it's true. So oftentimes when we're on this path of discovering who we are and kind of trying to find that authentic voice, it does take a lot of courage to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, right? To go exploring into all the reasons, and even to acknowledging the fact that we might not know who we are and that we actually might not be authentic in that. So, yeah. So currently, I won't obviously name names, but I have a client I'm going to be working with over the next couple months who is looking for a meaningful relationship, like a really soulful relationship. And so through our time and working together, we're going to explore, the types of people that she does attract or has attracted, why that's the case, and then shift and change it so that she can actually start to attract the partner that she wants to, or
Sounds
that
like you're a
resonates.
dating coach.
Well, I think no, that is just one aspect, one avenue that can happen if that's what somebody wants. And then I have another gentleman who's I'm working with who feels lost. He's gotten to a point in his life where, very successful, happy in all areas. He just doesn't feel fulfilled as far as really knowing who he is, and perhaps has a lot of regrets and guilt over things that he has done in the past that he no longer wants to live with, so that we can start to be, again, more authentic in ourselves, but also then we start to have more authentic relationships in our lives.
But both of those descriptions sound more like you're just being a friend.
Can be. It's a process of entrainment. So entrainment is when one, we'll say, cell, a healthy cell or an unhealthy cell, the unhealthy cell starts to entrain and rise up to become like the healthy cell. So when you're in an environment that's healthy, then you naturally over time start to entrain to that environment as well. So if you want to think of me as being like a flower pot, when you or a pot, if you plant an oak seed in this small pot and you want to sprout the oak seed, it's going to have to be a small pot to hold it.
Yeah.
And then eventually that seed's going to grow and sprout, and it needs a bigger pot. So now the pot becomes bigger, and we put that seed in that pot, and eventually it grows. And then we need a bigger pot until it grows, and until it gets to the point where you can now put that plant, that tree outside in nature, where it can now grow to its fullest capacities on its own in a healthy way. I'm that pot which essentially holds people as they become stronger and stronger.
Okay,
and
so this
stronger.
guy that's unhappy with his life and is coming to you, I think the way you described it is to get over some mistakes that he's made in the past and to figure out what's important in his life, even though he's seemingly very successful. Let's say that was me and I came to you. What would we do? Would we go into your yurt and light some bark, or what like, and we would talk? What would happen?
I love that. I love it. I love it. Some people might. No, we would meet either virtually over, like you could be right there in your office. I could be, this is my office. It's just the background of the wall. And we would talk. Again, what are your goals? Where do you want to go? What's causing you the most distress at this time? What's the space? What's the distance between where you are now and where you want to be? So I'm going to help bridge that so that what you want can come closer to you faster and in a more healthy, fluid way, instead of if you go on your own. So yeah, we meet in my office. If we're doing it in person, we can do it virtually. We talk a little bit, and then we have to do a healing of some kind. So whether that's I'm guiding you in a journey, we're going for some answers, you're coming to the realization, the understanding, you're gaining wisdom as to, oh, that's why I feel the way I do. Oh, it's because this actually happened when I was 3 years old. And
okay,
then
so
we're going to heal.
You're guiding that person in a journey. How do you guide them in that journey?
Have you ever done a guided meditation?
No. Tell me about a guided meditation.
It's essentially
I did a
okay.
meditation where we counted to 7 backwards and forwards for half an hour. It was the biggest waste of a half hour I've ever done.
Fair enough. That's an honest answer and reaction. So a guided meditation. Think of like, if I were to tell you a story, Brian, and I would say, imagine I'm going to take you on a journey. once upon a time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your eyes are closed, you're relaxed, and you're just letting your imagination go. And you're listening to my words, and you're just going where the story takes you. And but you are the main character in the story. You are the hero of this journey. So as I'm guiding you through this story, you're going to see things or know things or feel things we all perceive in different ways. And from that, you're going to get answers. You might have emotions, you might not. You might feel changes or sensations in your body, you might not. There's nothing normal about what I do. Let's just be honest, right? Normal. The only thing normal in life is the drying on the setting of a dryer. It's not normal per se, but yet it works. So I guide you, kind of like telling you a story. You're imagining it, you're having experiences. And through that, you're clearing away kind of cobwebs or things that, limited beliefs that other people have imparted on you. And you're getting to the root of understanding. And from that often comes of healing, consciously, but also energetically.
So you're making up the story, and the story is what? It's you trying to give me some suggestions on how I can have a better life, or I'm messed up or something, or
no, I'm not making up stories. 7 years of training with the Algonquin shaman. There's specifics, we call them ceremonies. There's specific journeys that we do for specific things. So
really,
if let's say you have a history of abandonment in your life, so which is one of the main themes that everybody has, abandonment. We're going to do a specific journey, a specific ceremony where we're getting to the original root wound. So the first instance where you felt and you were abandoned in your life, and that could be in the womb, right? And then we heal it. And then there's other layers to that. There's parts of us that, contracts we make. So if I get abandoned, I'm going to make essentially a contract subconsciously with my mind to never trust anybody else. So we got to resolve that contract that we've made with ourselves and then replace it with something healthy. So again, it's not the absence that's the healing. It's the replacing it with something healing.
It's not the absence.
So we're doing.
It's replacing it.
Exactly. So it's not just healing the wound, it's replacing it with something healthy, something new.
And you say these stories, these ceremonies from shamanism have the secret in them.
No, you have the secret in you. I'm just helping you discover what that is. I'm not telling you anything. It's not hypnosis. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm not telling you. I'm guiding you to find your answers. And then I'm helping with my healing tools, but also your healing tools, your natural abilities to heal and to resolve and to change. That's why it's so empowering, because in the end, after a series and working together, you start to realize that you have everything that you need, that you don't need. My goal is for my clients not to have to come see me, or maybe they come see me once a year, or for whatever, some type of guidance or tune-ups. But my goal is to have people be able to help themselves.
You must meet some fascinating people.
Very fascinating. I love what I do. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Can you be friends with these people as well, or do you have to have sort of this professional client type of relationship?
No, that's a great question as well. A lot of my clients, we are friends. We do develop great friendships. In fact, this summer, I did it last summer, one of my clients turned best friends, and I lead people on an adventure in the Adirondacks, so upstate New York, where we take people camping and hiking. And so this group of people were really growing a bond, a community. So I'm helping them. I'm healing, by being in the environment, but I'm also we do meditations at night. But then they'll also come to me one-on-one for help. So it's not kind of the superiority where I'm like, oh, no, like I'm this wise, like guru, shaman, you can't talk to me and we cannot associate outside of obvious professional conduct in that is confidential, and you would never know that you're my client, nor mention anything that we're doing, because it's your process, it's your evolution. It's nobody else's business but yours. So
what a fascinating conversation. And as I said before, a little bit woo-woo and a little bit hard for me to understand and accept, but it certainly sounds interesting, and it sounds like you're having a positive impact, not only on other people's lives, but it's obviously changed your life as well. We're going to take a break for some messages and be back with some concluding comments in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Well, we're back in the Brian Crombie Radio Hour with Beth Sturdevant. And I got to tell you, Beth, I want to come to your yurt. Like, it sounds absolutely fascinating. It sounds, I don't know if I believe what you're talking about. I don't know if I'd accept all this woo-woo stuff, but it sounds really interesting. And I think you're a very inspirational person. So I thank you very much for sharing your story and your shamanism with us today.
thanks, Brian. And I honor the fact that you don't believe, and I actually respect that. And I think it's healthy to be skeptical, because there's a lot of not so healthy people out there, especially in the healing community. A lot of, like I said, like, I'm very apprehensive with woo-woo in the woo-woo community, so to speak. So that's a good place to be. However, we're having this conversation, and I'm very grateful for you to even be speaking about this, because that's how we bridge understanding, and we start to kind of normalize what it is that I do, what it is other people do. And it's okay that you don't believe. It's completely experiential. I would love if you, next time in the area, come to one of the Yurt circles and just experience it. It's a great place to start.
I'd love to try. It sounds absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
What bark would we lay on fire?
What bark would we like? I'm not, I mean, while I use crystals, they're not like bark and all that stuff. They're not the primary, in and of themselves. They're not going to do much healing. They can think of them as like supportive tools. We could light Palo Santo and sage. How about that?
That sounds good. So, are you a different person today than you were? Or did you re-find out who you started out to be?
I am a different person than I was, yes. But what I've discovered is that I'm actually the person that I was, like, born to be. So I'm more like myself at 2-3 years old, before all the trauma and everything in my life started to happen. I feel more alive. I feel more vibrant. I'm definitely authentic. I'm grounded. I'm full of passion. Yes. So yes, I've rediscovered that part of me, and then I've become who I want to be. Well, who I've always known I was, but I was unable to actualize because of my own personal experiences.
Beth, if people want to reach out to you, maybe explore hiring you for their for your services, or maybe coming to a Yurt circle or something, how should they best do that?
They can visit my website, bethsturdevant.com. On there, I have like the upcoming Adirondack adventure that we're doing this summer, my Yurt circles. I have my shamanic coaching program that is accessible virtually or in person, as well as any other events that I have coming up. So bethsturdevant.com.
Beth, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It's been an interesting conversation again. And I think you would be a wonderful, interesting shaman coach. And I think you'd also be a really good psychotherapist, because it sounds like you're doing a little bit of both, even though you may not be trained in one and you are trained in the other. But you obviously are very intuitive, and you are very deep in your understanding of people's challenges and problems. And I love this attitude of self-discovery, that it's the solutions are within ourselves. And what you do is you try to help people try to figure out the solution for themselves. And maybe these journeys, these stories that you talk about really do help people figure things out for themselves. And so I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you.
That's our show for tonight. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online, even from Ottawa, at www.saga960am.ca. And all my podcasts and videocasts are available on my website, briancrombie.com. And you know, I've interviewed Beth a few times before, and if you want to check it out, go to my YouTube channel or my website, briancrombie.com. There's a fascinating story about another program she does called, I think it's called Spirit Warrior. And that's where you are teaching females to be more powerful. And then there's also a great story about when you played on stage with the Eagles and the experience that was. Anyway, that's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.